Hey guys, welcome to Lenin 8. In this video, we are going to discuss a Java program to print Pascal triangle. What is this Pascal triangle? So here is, if the input is 5, then the corresponding Pascal triangle structure is like this. So if you remember in mathematics, to find a square, or I mean a plus b whole square, so where we'll be using a corresponding coefficients, that is 1 a square plus 2ab plus b square, which means 1 into a square, 2 into ab, again 1 into b square, which represent this Pascal triangle's third row. Similarly, when we write a plus b whole cube, so which is 1a cube plus 3a square b plus 3ab square plus 1b cube. So it means the quotients are 1, 3, 3, 1, which is again one of the Pascal triangles row here. So this is the meaning of a Pascal triangle. Then how do we get this Pascal triangle pattern in terms of Java programs? So let us discuss this in detail. So to get the corresponding triangle pattern, so first what we supposed to do, or what is the logic behind this one? So before that, if we take this entire thing as one square pattern, then what we supposed to print? So from here, if I started counting 1, 2, then 3, 4, and 5. So at 4 spaces we need, and we have to print one number. Then next line, 1, 2, and 3. So 3 spaces. For these 3 only I'm counting here. 1, 2, and 3 spaces are required. Then followed by one number, then a space, then a number. Yeah. So in the next line also leave 2 spaces. In the next line also leave 1 space. So after number also we need 1 space. Yeah. So that is a particular spaces which are involved in this pattern. Then followed by, how do we get these numbers? 1, then 1 and 1, 1 to 1, 1 3 3 1, 1 4 6 4 1. So for getting these numbers, there is a corresponding mathematic process, so which is nothing but permutations and combinations. In that, so there is a formula called as NCR formula. What is this NCR formula? So it is n factorial by r factorial into n minus r factorial. Yeah. So it is a corresponding numbers factorial. You have to find it, and we have to divide appropriately. So numerator by denominator. So that is a formula which is involved. So to get each and every number, then we have to use this NCR in place of n, a number, in place of r, a number. So for that, so here is the information which is given. So if this is row numbered 0, then what we supposed to find? 0C0. If this is row number 1, then we have to find 1C0 and 1C1, starting from 0 and equal to the same row. Then if it is row number 2, then 2C0, 2C1, 2C2. Then if it is row number 3, then 3C0, 3C1, 3C2, 3C3. If row number is 4, then 4C0, 4C1, 4C2, 4C3, 4C4. So if you find this, then we get the corresponding pattern, triangle pattern as a numbers. Yeah. So it means what is involved in this factorial of a number is involved. So for this factorial, in my previous video, I have explained how do we get a factorial of a number with the help of the recursive function. I recommend you to watch that. So because I'm directly going to use in this program. Once we understand this, like we need spaces, then we have to find the corresponding numbers factorial. Then what is the corresponding logic for this one, that we'll discuss now. So first, if we take one class to represent corresponding public class, say class name, So I am taking some Pascal. It's a class name. Inside this first, what we supposed to write? We supposed to write the factorial logic, because within the same class only we are going to use two methods. So one method will represent factorial logic. Another method is going to print the Pascal triangle pattern. So here public int some get factorial is one method which takes some integer input. So I am taking parameter as n. Inside this, the same condition, if the number n either 0 or the number is 1, what we supposed to? We supposed to return 1, because 0 factorial, 1 factorial is 1 only. Then in the else part, we supposed to return the recursive factorial call, that is n into the same function has to be called but with one less number. So get factorial, and one less number means n minus 1. So this is the else part written with curly braces or without curly braces, no issues. Then end of the method. So this is the first part. Then in second part, what we supposed to write? So again, one more method, say public void and get Pascal is one method. And what it takes input? It takes input as again some int. So this is Pascal triangle input is 5, then we should get 5 rows of Pascal triangle. Pascal triangle input is 4, then 4 rows of Pascal triangle. That's nothing but it's a number. So int I am using n again, so which is different from get factorial n with this n. Okay. Next up, what's the purpose of this method? This method is going to print the pattern, so with the help of the corresponding for loops. So first I am using int I equals 0 and I should be less than or equals n, the next I plus plus. For the loop to iterate for required number of times as 5 times. So if we give this n as 4, then from 0 to 4 becomes 5 rows. That's the first part. So inside this for loop, what we supposed to write? First thing is we have to print the spaces, right? Then how do we print those spaces? So for this inside for loop, one more for loop we are using int a different variable j equal to 0. Then j should be less than or equals. So here is one important point, not up to n. So this is n minus. So here I. This is one important point in this logic. N minus I. Then j is supposed to be incremented by every time 1. The purpose of this j loop is only to print spaces and print in the same line or next line. Same line. Therefore, system.out.print we supposed to use, not println. So print one space in double quotes. That's the purpose of this first for loop. Inside outer for loop, one inner for loop purpose is to print spaces. What about next one? As a continuation to this one. So here, next part, one more for loop is required. What's the purpose of this for loop? Find 0 is 0, then 1 is 0 and 1 is 1 based on that. So for this, again, one more for loop. So for int, so we can use the same variable j or I also. So if it is having any confusion, then we can go for a different variable. So I'm using a k equals 0. Then k is supposed to be less than or equals to, can you please tell me it's less than or equals to n or less than or equals to I or j? It's supposed to be less than or equals to I. Then next k plus plus. The purpose of this for loop is print the corresponding factorial. How to print a factorial? So system.out.print, not println, print. So by calling this method, because this method is present in the same class, so we no need to create the object. Directly we can call the method. So get factorial is one method. What is the input for this one? One is I. So you just remember NCR means n factorial by r factorial into n minus r factorial. So for the same thing n itself, we are using I as a variable. Then for r, what's the variable? K is the variable. So in this, inside the parenthesis, I'm using a division operator. So for here we have to call get factorial method once again. Get factorial to use k as one input. Then inside this only parenthesis star operator. So n is over, r is over. Now n minus r. How do you write that? So again use the get factorial method and we supposed to call I minus k. Then closing of this denominator parenthesis, then closing of the print function parenthesis, semicolon. So this is the purpose of next for loop, which is getting the nc0, 0c0, then 1c0 and 1c1, and 1c1, 1c, sorry, 2c1, 2c0, 2c1, 2c2 like this. Then finally, we have to close this outer for loop, but one more point. Once it prints one line, then the cursor has to move to next line. That's why here one print statement system dot out dot print ln this time. Print ln, that's all. Yeah. Then closing of the outer for loop, then closing of the get Pascal method. So here is one more point. So here every time when it prints, after printing, we need one space, right? That's why. So here also before this get factorial of I by get factorial of k into I minus k, we append with one space. One space plus this syntax. So which will give the exact expected pattern with a proper spacing. So this is the simplest logic which is behind Pascal triangle. Everything is simple, only the order is important, that's all. I hope you understand. We will also execute this through the IDE. To execute the same, I have taken a class and inside this one method to find the factorial and another method to get the Pascal triangle pattern, which is taking one integer as input. Inside this, so we are using one for loop as outer for loop, so which is starting from 0, ending up to n value. Then inside this, there is a first for loop. The purpose of this for loop is to print spaces. Yeah. So that is starting from 0 and less than or equals to n minus I. For more clarity, I recommend you to debug why it is n minus I. Then we are using one more for loop. This is to print factorial. That is NCR formula. The next, inside this, we are using a print and first we are appending with one space to get a proper triangle structure. Then NCR says n factorial, that is numerator part. So in denominator, so r factorial and n minus r factorial. So in terms of formula, so we are using ijk respectively. Then once this one row of factorial is printed, then to cursor to move to next line, so we are using a println. So the same loop will run for given n number of times and we get the corresponding pattern. So to execute, so with this class name called Pascal, so inside this main method, so I have created an object for this Pascal class and I am passing a parameter as 4 to this. Let us execute from here to see the pattern. Yeah, so which is 1 and 1 1 1 2 1 1 3 3 1 1 4 6 4 1. So if we just try to change the input, I'm giving 3. So save and execute. So which is going to give the output as Pascal triangle of 4 rows because we are starting, the loop is starting from 0 to n. That's why 0 to 3 is nothing but 4 rows. So this is the complete generic logic of Pascal triangle pattern. I hope you enjoyed it. And for me to make more videos, please post your questions through comment section. Thank you and see you in the next video.